So one of the kind of new cultural icons that we've had over the last few months is Big John, the Bosch father. Basically, he's a man who got famous on the internet for eating food, giving it a review and saying Bosch. You know what? Slay. We have different politics. It's very worth pointing out this guy was anti-Corbyn. He is reasonably right-wing in terms of his political outlook, but what he isn't is a racist. So what Big John is famous for very recently is, in the wake of Operation Raise the Colours and some racism that was happening around that, a Chinese restaurant in York was attacked and smeared with racist graffiti. And Big John said, this is out of order. I'm going to go up to York. I'm going to give them my custom. And he was invited on Newsnight, believe it or not, to talk about the fact. And he said, well, I understand people want to raise flags, but it's being done for some unfair purposes in some cases. And it's leading to things like this, which are obviously racist. And I think that's wrong. And the response to this from broadly people were going, yeah, mate, I agree with that. That's fine. I get that, you know. They fundamentally agree with the points that he was making, and that it's nice to see the people who've been attacked by racists being given some high-profile support from somebody with a pretty large following like Big John. Nice guy, loves takeaway, hates racism. Pretty simple stuff. Probably the median position in this country is love takeaway, hate racism. Not difficult. However, people aren't happy. They aren't happy for two reasons. First of all, they're not happy because there's a lot of racists in this country who think that he is somehow a leftist plant to undermine their like anti-migrant politics or something like that because he supports businesses that get attacked by racists. And second of all, it's because there is also another person who is from a kind of working class background who also says Bosch, who is like an actual like right-wing grifter who writes like ChatGPT, like anti-woke screeds or whatever to be able to click farm for blue check revenue, who is also appointed on Strictly Come Dancing, called Tom Skinner, who the right-wing really love because he is supportive of Donald Trump and MAGA and Reform UK and all the racist shit that they say, right? Like, he has been this kind of focal point for a bunch of the Reform UK types, which Big John, who also says Bosch, doesn't support. And these two reasons why people on the right don't like Big John have found an unusual place in which they have come together and coalesced. And it's in the form of a tweet by head of the Doge department at Reform UK, because of course they copy everything American. They're like guy from fucking Alan Partridge who likes American things now. And he has tweeted about both of those things. Literally claiming essentially that Big John is a leftist plant, right? By saying, still can't believe the media found some guy who says Bosch and put him everywhere to spread their propaganda and counter-signal Tom Skinner. Literally, they think a guy who thinks racism is bad, who thinks that smashing up and vandalizing Chinese takeaways is bad, is somehow controlled opposition for woke propaganda to take on Tom Skinner. Despite the fact that I think that Big John is probably more popular than Tom Skinner is, you know? Been part of plenty of memes, and indeed because most people care far more about having good takeaways than they do about whatever fucking stupid shit that Tom Skinner is talking about, you know? Right? Like, very, very strange stuff is coming out of Reform UK. Also very funny that they are so lowbrow in how they're concerned of things. Like, they're so lowbrow in terms of their concerns that rather than talking about, like, macro policy or what they're going to do to save the country, they're talking about, like, people who are famous on TikTok for saying Bosch, right? Like, weird that this is something of your concern because of how much that you are trying to tie yourself to the influencer demographic. Very, very strange. Very, very, very strange, right? John is just a normal bloke and he has rattled you. Is very, very true. Like, he has absolutely rattled these people just on the grounds of being a guy who's working class and not racist. Which is, you know, what they think, these people, these posh people, because Zia Yusuf is very posh, right? He is very posh. He's from an upper middle class background and is a multi-millionaire, right? He supports Reform UK fundamentally because they want him to cut his taxes. That's all he cares about, is he wants his own taxes to be cut. And he will support any political position that gets him into a position to cut his own taxes. That's it. That's all he cares about. It's why he runs Doge, right? He wants all these cuts to government spending so he can reduce his own taxes. That's all he cares about, right? So he will just kind of climb into anything to maximize the likelihood of that happening, you know? And so he thinks that all working class people are all like Tom Skinner, when the reality is that working class people, just like middle class people, just like upper class people, are no monolith. They have different opinions, right? And so he somehow thinks that because they found a working class person who thinks that racism is bad, somehow they must be propaganda and controlled opposition, because Reform UK is the mainstream political party of conspiracy theorists. Simple as that. Is he sponsored by Bosch, though? No, Andy, but he was sponsored by Curry's PC World to promote Bosch products. That's no word of a lie. Honestly, like, Get that bag, Big John. We may not politically agree on many things, but we do agree that racism is bad, and he is funny. So we'll give him that. Also, Tom Skinner is barely working class. Like, he's literally a business owner, and he went to private school. He's about as working class as Sam Pellegrino. Anyway, more to the point. The Bosch father himself has responded. Zia Yusuf, apologise to me please for your slur. What a disgrace. And then tags a bunch of news companies. Let's see what he had to say in this little video.
Zia Yusuf, I was actually going to vote reform at the next election, like many of my family and friends, but this tweet from you has shown me exactly what you think and what type of people you are. Disgusted and shocked that you would target me like that, because I stuck up for an immigrant family being vandalised in their takeaway restaurant. I tell you what, it just shows what sort of people you are. You can have the politics, mate. I'm not a politician. I don't meet any politicians because I don't want to get involved with people like you. Well, you've just lost my vote for reform. Well done.
Again, I mentioned before, we don't share politics. He's clearly on the right. He was very anti-Jeremy Corbyn, like whatever. We share different politics. But fundamentally, one thing that we do share is that racism is bad, right? And most people don't understand that Reform UK are like this vile about migration. And they really do think that it is okay that their own supporter base, the kind of people who would daub racist graffiti on an immigrant's family's Chinese restaurant. Like, this is a basic thing that unites most people in this country, and they just don't hear enough of the reality of what Reform UK are like to know they're not worth voting for. And that's the issue. That's why we need to have more exposés about the reality of Reform UK, not only, of course, the racism, which is very prominent there, but also on top of that, the fact that they want to sell our country out to supranational mega corporations to buy up all of our assets and slash welfare for people who really need it, including people who are in the industrial heartlands that have been shredded by Thatcherism, because Nigel Farage is literally a Thatcherite. Like, they need industrial policy, and what they want, what Reform UK want, is slashing of state expenditure to go even further on the Thatcherism that ruined these places in the first place, you know? More exposés need to happen, because there are plenty of people out there who, as he points out, not terribly politically engaged, who look at reform as an alternative to the admittedly very failed status quo, and then when they actually interact with Reform UK supporters and indeed politicians, they realise that they are a bunch of fucking wrong-uns, you know? Because they are wrong-uns, but unless they get exposed to that, they won't realise, you know? Again, he spells it out very clearly here. Just shows how out of touch this bloke is. Most of my friends and family were going to vote reform, and he calls me a left-wing plant. Just because I don't believe in racial attacks. You couldn't make it up what a plonker this bloke is. It's fundamentally the case, right? We should all be able to agree that racist attacks are bad, and somebody who is open in taking that position is being derided as a plant by someone who's very, very prominent in UK politics like Zia Yusuf, you know? And again, he even admits that his vote was going to be a protest vote against the Uniparty. But again, now he's been shown how dangerous they are. Like, he won't even bring himself to do that, which is, you know, fair enough. Again, we have different politics. I'm not advocating for Big John's broader political perspectives. We disagree on a lot, you know, but fundamentally, we are at this point where there is a very large political party which fundamentally appeals to racists, that is attacking people for standing up to racism. That's how that thing works, right? That is going to potentially form the next government if people don't realise what they're really like, you know? So what's funny about this is fundamentally it exposes the racism at the heart of reform, but fundamentally exposes just how fucking unserious they are. Like, at the point at which, instead of talking about the things that are important, they're beefing with TikTok influence, shows you that they're just a bunch of fucking clowns, right? The Reform UK party is entirely staffed by idiots, by literal, actual clown humans. Big John out there, just minding his own business, wanting to use his platform for good by helping out a takeaway that got attacked. And Zia Yusuf takes it upon himself to want to get involved in this. Like, do you not have more important things to do, Zia Yusuf? Well, clearly not. But there you go. A shit show. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.